Long ago, in the middle of the hot Arabian desert, there stood a small city surrounded by mountains, Mecca. It was a city full of trade and travelers, but also full of darkness. People worshipped idols made of stone. They forgot the message of Allah that had been sent long ago through prophets like Ibrahim and Ismail. The rich became richer, and the poor were ignored. Women were treated unfairly, and kindness had almost disappeared from hearts. But in this very place, in the year 570 CE, a child was born, a child who would change the world forever. His name was Muhammad, the son of Abdullah and Amina. Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born an orphan. His father passed away before his birth, and his mother died when he was only 6 years old. He was then raised by his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, and later by his uncle, Abu Talib. Even as a young boy, people of Makkah called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy. He was honest, gentle, and never spoke a lie. He didn't worship idols. He used to spend time alone in a quiet cave called Hira, thinking deeply about life, about the stars, and about the one true God. One night, something incredible happened. Something that would begin the greatest story in history. It was the month of Ramadan. Muhammad was in the cave of Hira when suddenly the angel Jibril appeared before him. The angel said, "Read." The prophet, surprised and scared, replied, "I cannot read." Jibril repeated, "Read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clot. Read, for your Lord is the most generous." That night, the first verses of the Quran were revealed, the words of Allah himself. Muhammad ran home in fear and told his wife Khadijah what had happened. She comforted him and became the first person to accept Islam. The message of Islam begins. In the beginning, the message of Islam was private. Only a few close friends accepted it: Abu Bakr, Ali, Zayd, and a few others. But soon, Allah commanded the Prophet to share the message openly. He climbed the hill of Safa in Makkah and called the people, "O people of Quraysh, if I told you an army was coming, would you believe me?" They said, "Yes, we never heard you tell a lie." Then he said, "Then know that I am a messenger of Allah, sent to warn you of a great punishment if you do not believe." The crowd went silent. Some were curious, others angry. From that day, the people of Mecca began to fight against him. For 13 long years, the Prophet and his followers faced cruelty. They were insulted, beaten, and starved. Many were tortured for believing in one God. Bilal, a slave who accepted Islam, was tied under the burning sun with a heavy rock on his chest. Yet he kept saying, "Ahad, Ahad, one God, one God." Even under pain, they never gave up. But as the persecution grew stronger, Allah opened a new door, a city called Medina. The Muslims secretly began to move to Medina. It was a turning point in history. Finally, one night, the Prophet, PBUH himself, left Makkah with his loyal companion Abu Bakr. The enemies tried to capture them, but Allah protected them. They hid in the cave of Thar, and when the enemies came near, a spider spun its web at the cave's entrance, and a dove made a nest, making it look untouched. When Abu Bakr became worried, the Prophet, PBUH, said calmly, "Do not be sad. Allah is with us." That moment became one of the most beautiful proofs of trust in Allah. When the Prophet, PBUH, reached Medina, he was welcomed with love and songs. Tala al-Badru alayna. The full moon has risen upon us. Medina became the first Islamic state. The Prophet built a simple mosque where people prayed together, learned together, and helped one another. Islam taught equality, that a rich man and a poor man stand side by side in prayer. It taught peace, honesty, and mercy. Even the enemies of Islam were treated with justice. But the enemies from Makkah did not stop. They attacked the Muslims to destroy Islam. The first battle was Badr, only 313 Muslims against over 1,000 enemies. The Muslims had few weapons and no armor, but they had faith. The Prophet raised his hands and prayed all night, "O Allah, if this small group is destroyed today, your message will be lost." And Allah helped them. The Muslims won, a victory that shocked all of Arabia. Then came Uhud, a battle of lessons. Some archers disobeyed orders, thinking victory was certain, and the enemy attacked from behind. Many Muslims were martyred, including the Prophet's uncle Hamza. The Prophet cried but said, "If Allah loves someone, He tests them." Then came the Battle of the Trench, where Muslims dug a wide trench around Medina to protect it. The enemies surrounded them for weeks, but could not break their unity. Each battle was a test, and each time, faith grew stronger. Years passed. The Muslims grew in number. The enemies finally broke a peace treaty. So the Prophet decided to march toward Mecca, not with hatred, but with forgiveness. He entered the city with 10,000 Muslims. The Quraysh, who once tried to kill him, now stood powerless. But instead of revenge, the Prophet said, "Go, for today there is no blame on you. You are free." Then he walked into the Kaaba, the house of Allah, and destroyed all 360 idols, saying, "Truth has come, and falsehood has vanished." It was the moment when light replaced darkness. Soon after, the Prophet, PBUH, went to Mecca again for his last pilgrimage. Standing before thousands of people on Mount Arafat, he gave his final sermon, a message for all humanity. He said, "O people, your Lord is one, and your Father is one. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, nor a non-Arab over an Arab, except by piety." He reminded them to treat women kindly, to pray, to give charity, and to hold firmly to the Quran and his teachings. After a few months, the mission of the Prophet came to an end. At the age of 63, he returned to his Lord. The whole of Medina wept. After the Prophet, the leadership passed to his close companions, known as the rightly guided caliphs, Khulafa-e-Rashidin. Abu Bakr became the first caliph. He brought unity among Muslims and fought false prophets who tried to divide Islam. After him came Umar ibn al-Khattab, a man of great justice. Under his rule, Islam spread to lands like Persia, Egypt, and Syria. Yet Umar lived simply, sleeping on the floor, wearing patched clothes, and walking among his people at night to see if anyone was hungry. Once, he found a woman boiling water with stones to feed her hungry children. He immediately carried a sack of flour on his own back to her house. When someone offered to help, he said, "Will you carry my burden on the day of judgment?" After Umar came Uthman ibn Affan, known for his generosity. He compiled the Quran into one written book so it would never be changed. And after him came Ali ibn Abi Talib, known for his wisdom and bravery. These four caliphs built an empire not of greed, but of faith and justice. The expansion of Islam. Within a few decades, Islam spread far beyond Arabia, to Africa, Asia, and even parts of Europe. But this expansion was not through force alone. In many places, people accepted Islam because of the character of Muslims, their honesty, kindness, and fairness. In Egypt, people respected Muslim rulers for treating everyone equally. In Persia, scholars began translating knowledge into Arabic. The world was changing, and Islam was leading it toward knowledge, science, and civilization. After the time of the rightly guided caliphs, Islam continued to grow, not just in size, but in knowledge, art, and civilization. From Spain in the west to India in the east, the world began to feel the light of Islam. Cities that were once deserts became centers of learning, culture, and invention. The message of the Quran, to read, think, and seek knowledge, inspired generations. The Muslims began to study the stars, explore the oceans, and translate the wisdom of the past. The world was entering what history would later call the Golden Age of Islam. It began around the 8th century during the Abbasid Caliphate. The capital city, Baghdad, became the beating heart of the Muslim world, full of scholars, libraries, and ideas. Caliph Harun al-Rashid and his son al-Ma'mun built a famous institution called Bayt al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom. There, scholars from every background, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish, worked together, translating Old Greek, Persian, and Indian books into Arabic. It was a place where knowledge had no borders. The Muslim scholars who changed the world. One of the most brilliant minds of that time was al-Kwarizmi, the father of algebra. The word algorithm comes from his name. Without his work, there would be no modern mathematics or computers today. Then there was Ibn Sina, who wrote the Canon of Medicine, a book studied in Europe for more than 600 years. Al-Razi discovered ways to treat smallpox and measles. Ibn al-Haytham, known as the father of optics, explained how the human eye sees, an idea that became the foundation of modern cameras. Al-Biruni measured the Earth's circumference with amazing accuracy, while Ibn Khaldun wrote about history, society, and economics long before anyone else in the West. And Jabir ibn Hayyan, the father of chemistry, developed experiments that modern scientists still use today. These scholars were not just scientists, they were believers who saw no difference between science and faith. They studied the world because they believed understanding Allah's creation was an act of worship. The Muslim world was filled with beautiful and advanced cities. Baghdad, with its golden domes and busy markets, was called the jewel of the world. Córdoba in Spain had hundreds of libraries, paved streets, and streetlights, at a time when most of Europe was still in darkness. Damascus, Cairo, and Samarkand became centers of trade and art. Muslim architects built breathtaking mosques, with perfect geometry, domes that touched the sky, and calligraphy that reminded everyone of Allah's greatness. The Great Mosque of Córdoba, the Blue Mosque of Istanbul, and the Alhambra Palace in Granada still stand as symbols of that golden time. The beauty of Islamic art and culture. Islamic art was unique. It avoided showing living beings and instead used patterns, calligraphy, and geometry, showing beauty through balance and order. Each design reflected the idea that everything in creation follows a divine harmony. Calligraphers spent their lives writing the Quran in elegant Arabic scripts, while craftsmen made stunning carpets, glass, and ceramics. Music, poetry, and literature also flourished. Rumi, the great Sufi poet, wrote verses that touched hearts across the world. "You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop." Through art and poetry, Muslims expressed their love for Allah, their longing for peace, and their respect for knowledge. One of the most shining chapters in Islamic history was Al-Andalus, Muslim Spain. For nearly 800 years, Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived together there in peace. Córdoba became a symbol of tolerance and progress. Its streets were clean, its houses had running water, and its universities were world famous. The Muslim rulers of Spain built schools, hospitals, and libraries. They believed that education was a duty, not a luxury. Europe, which was living in the Dark Ages, began learning from the Muslims of Spain. Their scientific and philosophical works were later translated into Latin, sparking the European Renaissance. So, when Europe rose again in knowledge and power, much of it came from the seeds planted by the Muslims. As time went on, Islam spread to new lands, and great empires rose under its banner. The Umayyad Empire extended from Spain to India. The Abbasids made Baghdad a center of learning. Later came the Ottomans, Mughals, and Safavids, each leaving a mark on history. Let's explore a few of them. The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, founded by Osman I in the 13th century, grew to become one of the most powerful empires in the world. It lasted for more than 600 years and stretched across 3 continents: Asia, Europe, and Africa. The Ottomans were known for their justice, their grand architecture, and their powerful navy. Under Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, the empire reached its peak. He was not only a warrior, but also a poet and a man of law. He built the beautiful Süleymaniye Mosque in Istanbul, which still stands tall today. The Ottomans also protected the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, keeping them safe for pilgrims from around the world. The Mughal Empire. In the east, another great Islamic empire rose, the Mughals of India. Founded by Babur in the 16th century, the Mughal Empire blended Islamic, Persian, and Indian cultures into something unique. The Mughal rulers built magnificent structures like the Taj Mahal, a symbol of love and beauty, built by Shah Jahan. But beyond buildings, they also promoted education, trade, and peace between different communities. Under rulers like Akbar, Jahangir, and Aurangzeb, Islam spread peacefully through India, not by the sword, but through justice, art, and knowledge. The message that never died: empires rise and fall, but the message of Islam, La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, never fades. Even when Muslim lands became weak or were invaded, the light of faith stayed in people's hearts. Throughout centuries, Islam gave the world great thinkers, doctors, mathematicians, artists, and leaders. But most importantly, it gave a message of peace, justice, and humanity. The Quran says, "We have made you into nations and tribes so that you may know one another, not so that you may despise one another." Surah Al-Hujurat 49:13. This verse alone shows how Islam's message is for all people, for unity, respect, and compassion. Today, many people don't realize how much of modern life comes from that Islamic golden age. The words algebra, alcohol, sugar, cotton, coffee, magazine, and even sofa all come from Arabic. Hospitals, surgical tools, universities, and scientific methods all were shaped by Muslim minds. Even the compass and maps that helped European explorers find new worlds were developed from Muslim inventions. Muslims taught the world how to think logically, how to record experiments, and how to separate fact from belief, all while staying close to faith. Islam never said, "Knowledge belongs to one people." It said knowledge is light, and light belongs to everyone. But like every empire, the Muslim world also faced decline. Greed, internal fights, and forgetting the true teachings of Islam weakened many nations. European powers grew stronger and began to colonize Muslim lands. Yet history shows that even in decline, the spirit of Islam never disappeared. Scholars continued teaching. Mosques continued calling people to prayer. Families continued raising children with faith. The Quran was memorized by millions, word for word, ensuring it would never be lost. And through all the hardships, the message remained the same. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. Surah Ash-Shar 94:6. The legacy of Islam today: over 1.9 billion Muslims live in every part of the world. From the deserts of Arabia to the mountains of Indonesia, from Africa to Europe, Islam has left its mark. It is not just a religion. It's a complete way of life. It teaches to pray with discipline, to give charity with kindness, to fast with patience, and to treat others with respect. It reminds humanity that real success is not in wealth or power, but in good deeds and faith. And even after more than 1400 years, the call of Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, echoes in every corner of the world, 5 times a day. No other message in history has stayed so pure, so unchanged, for so long.